You are living in an abundant universe. Right now, at this very moment, there are blessings flowing toward you that you haven't even noticed yet. There are gifts being handed to you that you've been too busy to see. There are miracles waiting at your doorstep while you're looking somewhere else, convinced that life isn't giving you enough. But I'm here to tell you something that will change everything if you really hear it. The blessings that are meant for you, the ones that have your name written all over them, they don't just meet your needs. They go over and above anything you could have asked for or expected. You see, most of us have been trained to think small. We've been conditioned to believe that we should be grateful for the bare minimum, that we should accept whatever crumbs fall from the table and call it a blessing. We pray for enough money to pay the bills, enough health to get through the day, enough love to not feel completely alone. We've set our expectations so low that we've forgotten what it means to truly receive. We've forgotten that the universe doesn't deal in scarcity. It doesn't count pennies or ration out joy like it's in short supply. The universe is abundant by its very nature, and when it blesses you, it doesn't hold back. Think about nature for a moment. When an apple tree produces fruit, does it give you just one apple? Does it carefully calculate exactly how much you need and then stop right there? Of course not. It produces hundreds of apples, far more than any one person could eat. When the ocean creates waves, does it measure out exactly enough water to make one perfect wave and then quit? No. It sends wave after wave after wave, each one complete and full and abundant. When the sun rises in the morning, does it shine just enough light to let you see where you're walking, or does it flood the entire world with brilliance? This is how the universe operates. This is the principle that governs all of creation: abundance, overflow, more than enough. But somehow, we've disconnected ourselves from this truth. We walk through life with a poverty consciousness, always worried about lack, always afraid there won't be enough. We hoard and we grasp, and we hold on tight to whatever little bit we have because we're terrified it might be all we ever get. And in doing so, we block the very flow of abundance that's trying to reach us. We close ourselves off from the blessings that are already on their way. Let me tell you what happens when you shift your awareness, when you begin to understand that you are not separate from this abundant universe, but rather an expression of it. Everything changes. When you realize that the same force that creates millions of stars and endless galaxies is the same force that beats your heart and breathes your breath, you start to expect more. Not from a place of greed or entitlement, but from a place of understanding. You start to align yourself with the way things actually work. The blessings that come to you when you're in alignment with your source, they're not ordinary blessings. They're not the kind that just barely meet your needs and leave you anxiously wondering about tomorrow. They're the kind that exceed your expectations. They're the kind that make you shake your head in wonder and say, how did this happen? They're the kind that are so perfect, so precisely what you needed even though you didn't know you needed it, that you can't help but recognize them as something more than coincidence. I've seen this happen in my own life countless times, and I've watched it happen in the lives of thousands of people I've worked with over the years. Someone loses a job that they thought was their security, and they're devastated, they're scared. They think the universe has abandoned them. But then, if they can stay open and trust the process, what comes next is always better. Not just a little better, but significantly better. A new opportunity that pays more, that fulfills them more, that takes them in a direction they never would have gone if they'd stayed comfortable in that old job. The blessing that came was over and above what they lost. Or someone goes through a painful breakup. A relationship ends that they thought was forever, and they can't see how they'll ever be happy again. But then time passes, and they meet someone new, or they find a depth of peace within themselves that they never knew was possible. They look back and they realize that what they thought was a tragedy was actually the universe clearing the path for something better. The blessing that came was over and above what they thought they needed. This is how it works when you understand the principle. When you stop resisting what is and start trusting that everything is unfolding perfectly, you begin to see that you're always being taken care of. Not in the way your ego wants, with perfect comfort and no challenges and constant validation, but in the way your soul needs, with exactly the right experiences to help you grow and expand and become who you're meant to be. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, that's easy to say, but what about when things are really hard? What about when I'm struggling financially, or when my health is failing, or when I've lost someone I love? Where are these abundant blessings then? And I understand that resistance. I really do. But here's what I've learned, and here's what I invite you to consider. The blessings are always there. Always. But sometimes we're looking in the wrong direction. Sometimes we're so focused on what we think we should be receiving that we miss what's actually being given. You might be struggling with money, but have you noticed the friend who called at exactly the right moment? Have you noticed the unexpected help that showed up? Have you noticed the way things have worked out even when it seemed impossible? You might be dealing with illness, but have you noticed the strength you didn't know you had? Have you noticed the compassion that's grown in your heart? Have you noticed the way this challenge has connected you more deeply to what really matters? These are blessings too. These are the over and above gifts that come wrapped in packages you didn't expect. The universe is always giving you what you need for your highest good, but it's not a cosmic vending machine where you insert your prayers and get exactly what you ordered. It's far more intelligent than that. It sees the bigger picture. It knows where you're headed even when you don't. It knows what you need to learn, what you need to release, what you need to become. And it orchestrates everything, every single event and encounter and circumstance to support your evolution. When you really get this, when you really understand that you live in a friendly universe that's always working on your behalf, you relax. You stop fighting against what is. You stop demanding that life show up according to your specifications. You become open and receptive, and that's when the magic happens. That's when you start to notice all the ways you're being blessed that you've been blind to before. Let me tell you about the power of gratitude in all of this. Gratitude is not just a nice spiritual practice or a way to feel better when you're down. Gratitude is the key that opens the floodgates of abundance. When you're grateful for what you have, even if it seems small or insufficient, you're sending a signal to the universe that you recognize the good in your life. You're acknowledging the blessings that are already here. And the universe responds to that recognition by sending you more to be grateful for. But most people have it backwards. They think they'll be grateful when they get what they want. They'll be grateful when they have more money, when they meet the right person, when their circumstances improve. But that's not how it works. Gratitude comes first. You have to be grateful for where you are before you can move to somewhere better. You have to appreciate what you have before more can flow to you. This isn't just spiritual philosophy. This is practical wisdom that works every single time you apply it. Start noticing the blessings that are already in your life. The fact that you're breathing right now is a blessing. The fact that your heart is beating without you having to think about it is a blessing. The fact that you can see and hear and feel is a blessing. The fact that you have another day to experience this beautiful, mysterious life is a blessing. Start there. Start with the simple, obvious things that you've been taking for granted. Be genuinely grateful for them. Feel that gratitude in your body. Let it fill you up. And then start looking for the blessings that are disguised. The setback that redirected you. The person who said no and forced you to find a better way. The limitation that made you more creative. The challenge that made you stronger. These are all blessings too, even though they didn't feel like it at the time. When you can be grateful for everything, not just the pleasant stuff, you're living from a place of true wisdom. You're recognizing that it's all serving you. It's all part of the perfection. It's all helping you grow into the highest version of yourself. Now, there's something else I want you to understand about these over and above blessings. They come in divine timing, not human timing. Your ego wants everything right now. It wants instant gratification, immediate results, fast solutions to every problem. But the universe works on a different schedule. It's not slow and it's not procrastinating. It's just precise. Things happen when they're meant to happen, when all the pieces are in place, when you're truly ready to receive them. How many times have you looked back on your life and realized that something you wanted desperately at one time would have been completely wrong for you? How many times have you been grateful that you didn't get what you prayed for because what came later was so much better? This is divine timing at work. This is the intelligence of the universe, orchestrating events in a way that your limited human perspective couldn't possibly understand in the moment. So when you're in a place of waiting, when you're in that space between where you are and where you want to be, trust the timing. Don't interpret delay as denial. Don't assume that because something hasn't happened yet, it's never going to happen. Stay open. Stay faithful. Stay aligned with your highest vision. Keep doing your part. Keep showing up. Keep being the kind of person who's ready to receive the blessings that are coming. And know that when they arrive, they'll be worth the wait. They'll be over and above anything you could have forced to happen on your own timeline. I want to talk about worthiness for a moment because this is where so many people get stuck. They don't feel worthy of receiving abundant blessings. They've been taught that they have to earn everything, that they have to prove themselves, that they're somehow not good enough to deserve the best that life has to offer. And this belief This deep-seated sense of unworthiness blocks the flow of good into their lives more than anything else. But here's the truth. You don't have to earn your worthiness. You were born worthy. You are worthy simply because you exist. You are an individualized expression of the divine, and the divine doesn't create anything unworthy. Your worthiness is not based on what you've done or what you've accomplished or how much you've achieved. It's not based on whether you've made mistakes or failed or fallen short of your own expectations. It's inherent. It's built into the fabric of your being. When you were born, you didn't question whether you deserved to be fed or held or loved. You simply received. You accepted care and attention as your natural right. And then somewhere along the way, you learned to doubt yourself. You learned to question your value. You learned to believe that love and abundance had to be earned through performance or perfection. But none of that is true. It was all conditioning, all programming that you absorbed from a world that doesn't understand how things really work. You have to reclaim your sense of worthiness. You have to decide that you are worthy of every good thing simply because you are here. And when you make that decision, when you really own it and live from it, the blessings start flowing in ways you never experienced before, because you're no longer blocking them with your beliefs about not being good enough. You're no longer pushing away the very things you're asking for because some part of you doesn't believe you deserve them. Think about the people in your life who seem to effortlessly attract good things. They're not necessarily smarter than you, or more talented than you, or more deserving than you. But they have one thing that makes all the difference. They expect good things. They believe, often unconsciously, that they're worthy of receiving. They're open and receptive. They don't question every blessing that comes their way or wonder why they got chosen. They just say thank you and receive it. That's the energy you want to cultivate. That's the consciousness that allows the over and above blessings to reach you. Let me tell you about the difference between living from your ego and living from your higher self, because this is crucial to understanding how blessings flow. Your ego is the part of you that feels separate from everything and everyone else. It's the part that's always comparing and competing and trying to get ahead. It operates from fear and lack and limitation. It believes in scarcity. It thinks that if someone else gets something good, there's less for you. It's constantly trying to control and manipulate and force outcomes. And when you're living from your ego, life is exhausting. You're always struggling, always pushing, always worried that you're going to miss out or fall behind. But your higher self, your true self, operates from a completely different place. It knows that you're connected to everything. It knows that there's infinite abundance available. It knows that you don't have to fight for your good because it's already yours. It knows that when you align with love and service and giving, the receiving happens naturally. Your higher self trusts. It allows. It flows with life rather than against it. And when you're living from your higher self, blessings come easily. Not because you're forcing them, but because you've removed the resistance that was keeping them away. The spiritual path is really just the journey from ego consciousness to higher self-consciousness. It's the process of remembering who you really are and living from that truth. And as you make this shift, as you spend more time operating from your higher self, you start to experience life in a completely different way. Synchronicities increase. The right people show up at the right time. Opportunities appear out of nowhere. Solutions come to problems you've been struggling with. Money flows more easily. Relationships improve. Health gets better. Not because you're doing more, but because you're being different. You're being aligned. You're being receptive. You're being open to receiving the over and above blessings that have always been there waiting for you. Now, I want to address something that stops a lot of people from receiving their blessings, and that's the belief that accepting abundance somehow makes you selfish or materialistic or unspiritual. There's this idea that spiritual people should be above wanting nice things, that if you're truly evolved, you shouldn't care about money or success or comfort. But that's a misunderstanding of what spirituality really means. Being spiritual doesn't mean rejecting the physical world or pretending you don't have needs and desires. It means understanding the relationship between the spiritual and the physical, between the invisible and the visible. Everything in the physical world comes from the spiritual world first. Every creation starts as an idea, as energy, as possibility. And there's nothing unspiritual about wanting to experience abundance in all its forms. Money is just energy. Success is just an expression of your gifts. Comfort is just a reflection of the harmony you've created within yourself. The problem isn't wanting these things. The problem is when you think they're going to make you happy, when you make them more important than your connection to your source, when you're willing to violate your values to get them. But when you're connected to your higher self, when you're living from a place of purpose and meaning and service, abundance follows naturally. It's not the goal, it's the byproduct. It's the over and above blessing that comes when you're focused on giving your gifts to the world rather than on getting what you think you need to feel secure. When you make your contribution, when you serve others, when you use your talents and abilities to make a difference, the universe supports you. It has to. It's law. What you give out comes back to you multiplied. This is why the happiest, most fulfilled people are those who've found a way to give. They're not waiting until they have enough to start giving. They're giving now from whatever they have, and that giving opens them up to receiving even more. They understand the circle of abundance, how it flows out and comes back, how it multiplies as it moves. They're not afraid of loss because they know there's always more where that came from. They're generous because they trust in the infinite supply. I want you to think about your own life for a moment. Think about a time when you gave something without expecting anything in return. Maybe you helped someone in need. Maybe you shared your knowledge or your time or your resources. Maybe you simply offered kindness to a stranger. How did that feel? Didn't it feel good? Didn't it feel like you were more connected, more alive, more yourself? That feeling is your higher self, recognizing that you're acting in alignment with your true nature. And what happened after you gave? I'm willing to bet that something good came back to you, maybe not immediately, maybe not in the same form, but somehow, somewhere you were blessed. This is the principle in action. This is how the universe works. You cannot outgive the universe. You cannot give so much that there's nothing left for you. In fact, the more you give from a place of love and abundance, the more you receive. Not because you're trying to manipulate the system or because you're giving in order to get, but because giving opens you up. It expands you. It aligns you with the flow of abundance that's always moving through everything. So if you want to experience more blessings in your life, start by being a blessing to others. Look for ways to give. Look for ways to serve. Look for ways to make someone's day a little brighter, someone's load a little lighter, someone's heart a little fuller. Do it without keeping score. Do it without needing recognition or reward. Do it because it feels right, because it's who you are when you're living from your highest self. And then watch what happens. Watch how life begins to bless you in ways you never expected, in ways that go over and above anything you could have planned for or predicted. There's something else I need to tell you about these blessings, and it's this. They often come disguised as ordinary moments. We're so busy looking for the big dramatic blessings, the lottery win or the perfect relationship or the dream job that falls into our lap, that we miss the small, everyday miracles that are happening all around us all the time. The stranger who smiled at you when you needed it, the song that came on the radio with exactly the message you needed to hear, the parking spot that opened up right when you arrived, the phone call from an old friend, the sunset that took your breath away, the moment of clarity that shifted your perspective. These are all blessings. These are all the universe saying, I see you, I'm with you, you're not alone. When you start paying attention to these small blessings, when you acknowledge them and appreciate them, you begin to realize just how blessed you already are. You begin to see that you're surrounded by evidence of a loving universe that's constantly communicating with you, constantly showing you that you're supported. And as your awareness grows, as you become more attuned to the presence of blessings in your life, they increase. It's like tuning a radio to the right frequency. The signal was always there, but now you can hear it clearly. This is why meditation and quiet time are so valuable. Not because you're trying to get somewhere or achieve something, but because in the stillness you can hear, you can feel. You can sense the subtle guidance and the gentle nudges and the quiet knowing that's always available to you when you stop long enough to listen. In that quiet space, you connect with your source, with the infinite intelligence that's running this whole show. And from that connection, from that place of alignment, you begin to live differently. You make different choices. You see different possibilities. You attract different circumstances. The blessings that come when you're connected to your source are not random. They're not luck. They're the natural result of living in harmony with the way the universe works. You're like a radio tower that's broadcasting a clear signal, and the universe is responding to that signal by sending you experiences and opportunities and people that match your frequency. When you're broadcasting fear and lack and limitation, that's what comes back to you. When you're broadcasting love and abundance and possibility, that's what comes back to you. You're always creating your reality through the energy you're putting out, through the thoughts you're thinking, through the beliefs you're holding, through the emotions you're feeling. This isn't about positive thinking in some superficial way where you just plaster a smile on your face and pretend everything is fine when it's not. This is about genuine transformation of your consciousness. This is about changing at the level of your being, not just at the level of your behavior. When you change who you're being, when you shift your identity from someone who's lacking to someone who's abundant, from someone who's a victim to someone who's a creator, from someone who's separate to someone who's connected, everything changes. The world doesn't change. You change. And because you change, your experience of the world changes. You start to see opportunities where you used to see obstacles. You start to see blessings where you used to see burdens. You start to see growth where you used to see failure. It's all been there all along. You're just seeing it through new eyes, through the eyes of your higher self rather than through the eyes of your ego. And from this new perspective, life becomes an adventure rather than a struggle. It becomes interesting rather than threatening. It becomes something you're excited to participate in rather than something you're trying to survive. Let me tell you about the power of intention in attracting your blessings. Intention is not the same as wanting or wishing or hoping. Those are passive states that keep you waiting for something outside of yourself to change. Intention is active, it's focused, it's deliberate. When you set an intention, you're making a decision about what you're going to create. You're declaring what you're available for. You're aligning your energy with a specific outcome. And the universe responds to that clarity. But here's what most people miss. Your intention has to come from your higher self, not from your ego. When your ego sets intentions, they're usually about getting something to fill a void, to prove something, to make you feel better about yourself. Those kinds of intentions are driven by fear and lack, and they don't have much power. But when your higher self sets intentions, they're about expressing who you are, about contributing your gifts, about growing and evolving and becoming more of your true self. Those intentions are driven by love and purpose, and they have tremendous power. So when you're setting intentions for your life, ask yourself, is this coming from my ego or my higher self? Am I trying to get something or am I trying to give something? Am I trying to fill a void or am I trying to express my fullness? Am I motivated by fear of what I don't have or am I motivated by love of what I can create and share? The answers to these questions will tell you everything you need to know about whether your intentions are aligned with your highest good. And here's the beautiful thing. When your intentions are aligned with your higher self, when they're about service and contribution and expression rather than acquisition and validation and security, the blessings that come are always over and above what you intended. You set out to help one person, and you end up touching thousands. You set out to solve a problem, and you create something that transforms an entire industry. You set out to heal yourself, and you end up healing others just by your example. The universe takes your pure intention and amplifies it in ways you never could have planned or predicted. I've watched this happen so many times. Someone decides to write a book to help people with a problem they've overcome, and that book changes millions of lives and creates opportunities they never dreamed of. Someone decides to start a business to share something they're passionate about, and it grows into something that provides for their family and employs others and makes a real difference in the world. Someone decides to work on themselves, to heal their wounds and grow their consciousness, and that inner work ripples out and transforms all their relationships and creates a legacy for their children and grandchildren. This is the over and above principle at work. When you're aligned with your purpose, when you're operating from your higher self, when you're giving your gifts to the world, the blessings that come back to you exceed anything you could have imagined. They're not limited by your ability to figure things out or make things happen. They're only limited by your willingness to receive them, by your openness to being blessed in ways you didn't expect. And this brings me to one of the most important things I can tell you. You have to be willing to receive. This sounds obvious, but so many people are not actually open to receiving. They say they want blessings, but when blessings show up, they reject them. They don't feel worthy. They don't trust it. They think there must be a catch. They feel uncomfortable being on the receiving end. They're much more comfortable giving than receiving, because receiving requires vulnerability. It requires letting down your guard and admitting that you need help, that you can't do it all on your own, that you're not as self-sufficient as you pretend to be. But receiving is not a weakness. It's a strength. It takes courage to receive. It takes humility to receive. It takes trust to receive. And it's absolutely necessary. If you want to experience the fullness of life, you cannot only give, you have to allow the circle to complete itself by receiving. You have to let others bless you the way you bless others. You have to let the universe give to you the way you give to the universe. This is balance. This is harmony. This is how the flow works. So practice receiving. When someone offers you help, say yes. When someone gives you a compliment, say thank you and let it in rather than deflecting it. When an opportunity comes that seems too good to be true, investigate it with an open mind rather than immediately dismissing it. When money shows up unexpectedly, receive it gratefully rather than feeling guilty or suspicious. When love is offered, open your heart rather than protecting yourself. You are worthy of receiving all the good that life wants to give you. You don't have to earn it or deserve it or qualify for it. You just have to be willing to accept it. The blessings are here right now. They're not coming someday in the future when you finally get everything right or fix all your problems or become perfect. They're here now, waiting for you to notice them, to acknowledge them, to receive them. You are living in the midst of abundance. You are surrounded by love. You are supported by an intelligent universe that's always working on your behalf. You are exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you're meant to become. Trust this process. Trust that everything is unfolding perfectly even when it doesn't look like it from your limited perspective. Trust that the challenges you're facing are preparing you for the blessings that are coming. Trust that nothing is wasted, nothing is random, nothing is a mistake. It's all part of the perfection. It's all part of your growth. It's all part of the magnificent journey that is your life. And remember, you're not doing this alone. You're never alone. You're connected to the infinite source of all creation, and that source is always flowing through you, always available to you, always ready to support you when you align with it. When you remember who you really are, when you live from your higher self, when you give your gifts and trust the process and remain open to receiving, the blessings flow. They flow abundantly. They flow generously. They flow over and above anything you could have asked for or expected. This is your birthright. This is what you're here to experience. Not struggle and lack and limitation, but abundance and joy and fulfillment. Not separation and fear and scarcity, but connection and love and infinite possibility. The life you've been dreaming of, the life you've been working toward, the life you know in your heart is meant for you. It's available right now. Not because you finally earned it or because you've become perfect, but because you've decided to align yourself with the truth of who you are and how the universe works. So today, right now, make that decision. Decide to see the blessings that are already here. Decide to trust that more are on the way. Decide to live from your higher self rather than your ego. Decide to give freely and receive graciously. Decide to be grateful for everything, the good and the challenging, because it's all serving your highest evolution. Decide to expect miracles, not because you're being unrealistic, but because you're being aligned with reality as it actually is. The universe is abundant. You are worthy. The blessings are here. They're over and above anything you've been settling for. They're over and above the limitations you've accepted. They're over and above the smallness you've been living in. It's time to step into the fullness of what's available to you. It's time to claim your birthright. It's time to live the blessed life you were always meant to live.